Welcome to Living Your Maine Love, the podcast that celebrates the people who are living with passion, purpose, and a whole lot of heart. Each month, we'll sit down with people who are following what lights them up in Maine and beyond.
Welcome, Austin. Great to have you here today.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, would love to talk to you today about what you're working on in economic development and the blue economy. But let's start with you. You're a recent Mainer.
Yeah, recent Mainer. Through the looking glass for a long time, right? I think we'd been in Boston, my wife and I. We'd always been thinking about where we might go next post-Boston. We had our first child, Owen, he's 4 now, in Boston. We were always looking up, the highway saying, like, how do we get up to Maine potentially? And I had roots here. My grandmother has a place in Perkins Cove that we visited growing up, and was always thinking, like, what would be the route to get up here? And that was back in 2020. And then I was really fortunate, I was in economic development previously working for the mayor's office in Boston, and there was a headline in 2020, right as COVID was blowing in, right as the pandemic was blowing into town, which was that Dave and Barb Rue, who are now well documented here in town, were putting $100 million into Northeastern University to start something called the Rue Institute, which was this really exciting and ambitious economic development mission and vision. And I knew the team at Northeastern pretty well and was able to get in touch with that team. And then I was part of the team that started the Rue Institute here in town. And so, still in pandemic, everyone's working virtually, so wasn't quite up here as often as I would have liked. And took a little bit longer, few adventures later, but in late 2023, we finally found a house in Scarborough, and we're right by the beach. We're less than a mile away. And
so you're a Mainer now.
Mission accomplished.
Mission
we're
accomplished.
Up in Maine. And then, for the purposes of economic development, in our conversation today, we're something that I'm excited to talk about is the Maine Blue Index, which Mainelove is part of, and that's tied to something called C Street, which is a new economic development effort that we're starting to help Maine grow, really help Maine's future economy grow.
Yeah, let's start with C Street and what's the mission and how did the organization come to be? Most economic development groups typically have a government adjacency.
Sure.
I was drawn to your organization because it was an authentic group.
Yeah, it's private sector, and I think that goes part and parcel. Having again been in government, you need to have both. You need to have the structure there, and then the grease in between the wheels that helps things move sometimes a little bit faster than the broader structure moves. And so I saw an early opportunity to say, how do we create some systems that are maybe lacking in Maine, create some conversations and some interest and some buzz that's maybe lacking in Maine, that would be advantageous to where the state has just a tremendous amount of potential. And one of those spaces is the blue economy, which I know we're going to talk about. And so C Street's entire mission is to help nurture that future economy. And one of the ways we're doing that is through tools. And so data, tools, things like the Maine Blue Index.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I know I sent you an email out of the blue.
You did.
Literally.
Yes.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. That's perfect. Yeah.
And, it appeared that most of the Blue Index, if not all of the Blue Index that was at least available for me to see, were all ocean-based entities.
Yeah.
And I sent you an email that said I'd like to be included in the Blue Index for Mainelove water.
Yeah.
How did you find my email?
That was a busy day. But you were one of the first. We went live with the Maine Blue Index, and I'll take a step back. What the Maine Blue Index is it's a living map. It's the living map of Maine's blue economy. And believe it or not, it's the first time that we've been able to really visualize and see that economy in its entirety, which is surprising because it's such a key part of the state's heritage and a lot of the attention that's being put forth today. But that's what it's meant to do, is to capture the activity that's happening in that space and to begin to allow for decision-making and connections and many things that will come about. But that day, we had gone live that morning, and instantly there were a bunch of companies that were submitting, and there were some people following and some people talking about it, and I was just so excited, over the moon to see that.
It's amazing to see that come to life and feel it as a founder and all that.
Yeah. And then a company called Mainelove submitted. It was like 2 p.m. or something like that, and I was like, I know this name. And so I knew it, and I recognized it from the Hearts of Pine and the soccer time.
We're the water sponsor for the Hearts of Pine.
And what Gabe's been building here in town is like such an awesome effort in itself. So I took a second look. I was like, okay, Mainelove, let me read about this. And you had taken the time to write like a really thoughtful submission, because part of the Maine Blue Index is submit companies that aren't listed in there. And we launched with 300 companies a month ago, and it's well up and over that now already, which is great. So the submission engine is working and doing what it's supposed to be doing. But you were one of those companies, and I started reading about what Mainelove was doing, and the blue economy traditionally is, it's been tied to the ocean, and industry definitions, again, as someone who's worked in economic development, like, they're notoriously fickle. And I'm not someone who likes to be particularly dogmatic about really anything in life. I think there needs to be a little bit of, touch and go. And so, you think about some sectors, like fintech maybe. It's pretty easy to understand what that is. You're like, okay, financial technology, usually at the breaking part of the wave. But blue economy, we're talking about a color. So we're like, okay, blue, like, not even really accurate if you think about the color itself.
Absolutely.
But it is a word, it is a badge that's existed at scale, and people have used it to usually describe things that are tied to the ocean, or efforts that are tied to the ocean, or economic efforts that are tied to the ocean. And I think there's more to it than that. I think there is a big sense of connectedness of water and the elements of water and the ecology of water and the economy of water.
Well, we're big about water drives community.
Sure.
Since the origin of time, water drives community.
Yeah.
Watering holes with animals. Lions lay down their claws. They don't eat antelope at watering holes,
Yeah.
So we really, one of the reasons we lean so far into sports, for example, is, community of fandom. Right. But fandom, community, alcohol replacement, no single-use plastic in event stadiums, where we can have the biggest impact.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so we're really focused on, event stadiums, colleges.
Yeah.
Obviously, we do the retail around those engagements, but it's really that where can you make the biggest impact? The biggest impact are at stadiums that have 30,000 people that do not have an aluminum option.
Right, that's right.
So we're really trying to be the alternative to single-use plastic with the best water in the nation in 48 from Maine. And so proud of the source.
Of course.
The name is on the can.
But therein lied the connection right there, right? It was sort of you and the submission you wrote effectively widened the aperture that I had previously taken to say, like, okay, when we're going to launch this Maine Blue Index, it's going to capture the blue economy as previously defined as something that would tie to the ocean. And in that moment, I said, there's an opportunity to make this bigger and make it a bigger tent because it has to be bigger. And there is more that ties to it. And there is an element of water stewardship, which is exactly what Mainelove is doing. And so I appreciate that because you were at the vanguard of sort of a newer definition and a more holistic definition of something that is incredibly important for the state to be paying attention to.
Well, I came back to Maine with an intention. I've been spending summers here. I was born in Windham. I'm 12 generations Maine. If I'm going to come home to Maine, we're going to do something big.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do something big for the state. And I think we sit at a point in Maine where we've relied on traditional agriculture businesses to be our foundational economic values.
Yes.
Those will probably not change. How do we add additional things like the RU? I mean, Barbara's in her gift and the Institute have been an amazing opportunity, I think, for Maine to focus on data and data jobs and getting people skilled to take those jobs.
Yes.
However, I have personally found it difficult to find people to hire in Maine with those skills. So we obviously have some work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes, too, it's tied to, having been in economic development for a long time and business development for a long time professionally, there's a truism, which is that you can't grow what you can't see. And that was part of the reason we started the Maine Blue Index, was because I know that there's a ton of opportunity for the blue economy. There's also a ton of buzz right now from the state. There's a lot of energy into this area. And yet it's remained fairly chaotic. I think it's been hard to find the time, the structure, the speed at which to begin making things real. And so start with information, start with saying what's on the shelf. And from there, you can begin to grow, you can begin to strategize, you can begin to make policies that affect the thing that you can now see, which before you didn't really have your finger on the thumb of. And that was the case. Part of the reason in starting the Maine Blue Index was I had looked and said, like, what is the Maine Blue, what is the blue economy here in the state? And it was scattered. And so now we have a place that includes aquaculture, Mainelove, research, autonomous robots, surf shops, and all of the amazing companies that comprise an incredibly important sector to the state. And so finding talent is always, wherever you go, having been in that space, workforce development and economic development, it's always an issue. But I think a lot of the times it has to do with visibility. And water is part of Maine's heritage. And I think it infuses a lot of people's mindsets here in the state. I think it shapes our identity. It shapes how we act with each other.
Well, interestingly, one of my questions is if you could bottle the spirit of Maine, what would it entail? And I think that's the answer,
actually.
It's
a very poetic question.
Yeah.
If the water, a lot of places are of the water, right? If you kind of think back over time, like the development of cities and towns, a lot of places, particularly in the U.S., are of the water. Their early economies were shaped by the water, and their early jobs were shaped by the water, and the people were shaped by the water. But at some point, for a lot of those cities, I'd probably count Boston in this, the water became secondary. It became a nice to have. It became a view, maybe that you paid top dollar for. It didn't become something that shaped the state's destiny or the economic destiny of the state. And I don't think that's the case for Maine. I think in Maine, it is part of who we are. And
it's
so
to the point where it's a little taken for granted.
Sure. Yes.
When I first started touring breweries and meeting people, I've been away a long time.
Yeah.
The first answer I would get was, Jen, if you want water, just go get some out of the faucet. What are you doing? I was like, that's actually the point.
No.
That's actually the whole point is that I've lived in areas of water scarcity. I've lived like California. I've lived in areas with, accelerated development like in Austin where infrastructure just cannot keep up with the, influx of people and buildings. So my water is not attractive when it comes out of the faucet. It's legal to drink.
Yep.
But I don't know many people who drink it.
That's right.
And so coming home here has been a really interesting year. We just crossed our year anniversary.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's been an amazing year. We just crossed 200 stores in Maine, the Hearts of Pine, heading down to Boston.
Nice.
But the product is built for people from away.
Yeah.
People who have an affinity of Maine.
Economic development vehicle in itself will pull some people up to Maine by way of Boston.
By way of water, right? Yeah. And kind of started, actually reinforced. I was in Austin. I'm in an elevator. A young lady gets on with a Maine T-shirt on. I'm like, oh, I just got back from Maine.
Yeah.
Where were you in Maine? She's like, oh, actually, I went to school in Boston, which means she went to Harvard.
Yep.
Went to school in Boston. But the comment she made was, my best memories of college were the weekends I spent in Maine.
No way. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's the essence right there. That's the feel of the brand of I'd like to be in Maine.
Totally.
We're humble, we're proud people, hardworking.
Right.
How do we take that?
Not just here for vacation.
Just not here for vacation.
Here for you to build a life in case you want to.
Yes, and then the ability, to your point on sort of the starting with data.
Yeah.
It's a CPG company. This is all about 5 SKUs. And the data around 5 SKUs, but it is ultimately a product and data business.
Sure.
How do we build more of them in Maine around the blue economy?
Absolutely.
So I'd like to think that we're a leader in what we're doing to show that. I often get told, Jen, you're moving too fast. You're moving too fast. Like, this is actually how you do it.
Not in this day and age.
This is how you do it, right? A year up to be regulated.
For forgiveness, not permission. That's my MO. Yeah.
Correct. So in Maine, I have been a little controversial.
Good.
Because
delicious water.
Because
I don't know why it's controversial.
With your economic development answer, this is an economic. So the answer I usually get is something to the effect of, Jen, you haven't been in business a year. We're not capable of funding you.
Yeah.
I'm like, then you're not really a seed fund, are you?
Right. Yeah.
So the ability to access resources, not for ideation.
Yeah.
Plenty of resources in Maine for ideation. But where I sit in commercialization, my access to capital in Maine is nascent for growth.
Yeah.
I must go outside of Maine to find growth capital. How do we, with your background and your perspective, how do we start that momentum in Maine? Because obviously businesses can't grow if a bank is saying, Jen, I can't give you a loan because you don't have 3 years of history.
Yeah.
Now I know from starting other businesses that I'm already ahead.
Yeah.
At 1 year, I'm not going to wait 3 years to be underwritten by any of the banks in Maine, and this is not to be discouraging to other entrepreneurs to discuss things with banks in Maine.
Yeah.
But the basic underwriting process does not meet a venture mindset.
Right. Sure.
So coming from Boston, how do we fix it? How do we think about that?
Believe it or not, that problem exists everywhere. Even when I worked in Boston, you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. I had a mandate, which was attract the Amazons of the world to Boston, but also support the startup ecosystem in Boston. And those are important because you have to sort of protect each of those.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work with Mass Challenge.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Phenomenal organization. And you talk to entrepreneurs in Boston, a lot of times it's like, what's holding you up? What's preventing growth? And access to capital. And that's surprising. You know, Boston is full of capital.
But for healthcare and
Sure.
for like significant businesses that have good TAMs, that have ownership.
There's a parochial sense in Boston where, you know, pedigree matters and the industry you're operating in matters. And if you're in maybe an industry that isn't quite aligned with what Boston investors are used to, it can kind of become like, not quite for Boston. Maybe better for Bay Area where we're used to taking big risks.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because you then lose a lot of potential businesses and opportunities to the Bay Area. I remember the mayor of Boston, the former mayor of Boston, used to say one of Boston's biggest exports is its talent, and that was kind of always interesting to hear. Like,
incredible
Boston,
statement,
you know,
but so
28
true.
or 32 colleges and universities.
Over 400,000 students.
Yeah, all leaving the East Coast and going elsewhere, and Maine has a similar dilemma that it's run up against. And I think the difference is, to your point, sometimes it's a little bit about almost like a learned helplessness or a learned risk aversion, and that can become infectious. This sense that, you know, we don't do that because it is inherently risky, and that's
what I feel. That's what I feel is like it's entrenched in the culture.
Yeah, but for you to be doing this and to be leading the charge in spite of that risk aversion is now actually ideally creating some appetite to try something new. So in those banks, in those, you know, venture outfits who previously might have been a little bit more hesitant to now see proof of concept, of course you're having to do it the hard way, which is not ideal. But if they can see it, they can believe it. And ideally, the more we have that happening, you know, you leading the charge on things like that, now we can start to unlock some of that capital too.
And I think that's, you know, my personal mission. You know, I built a bunch of software companies in the fintech space. But I've not built anything in Maine. Maine has not gotten a tax dollar from Jen Millard in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I'd like to create a place that enables young people to remain in Maine.
Yes, absolutely.
So my team is very early in career. I feel like I'm running a business school.
Yeah.
Very early in career, but with incredible passion and incredible energy about Maine.
So that's what I was going to say.
Why do we want them to leave? We don't want them to leave. We should keep them here. So we need to create companies to show them that you can stay.
That's right. And I think that it reminded me of something we were talking about earlier, which was Maine's relationship and history with the water, right? And so I think you can't grow what you can't see, you can't support what you can't see, you can't get a job at what you can't see. And so if we know this to be true, that Maine's water and Maine's water access and ocean and lakes are incredibly important to people here in Maine, that shaped people's personas and how they act. So we know that to be true. We know people are leaving or maybe not staying in Maine because they don't think the opportunities are here. And so you could start to make a case that why don't we show them what's here in the thing that they potentially care about most? What do they care about most? Well, they really care about water. And so now we have, with the Maine Blue Index, several hundred organizations that are operating in the sphere of water, whether it's aquaculture, whether it's something else, whether it's Mainelove. And so can we tap into that inherent joy that people have about the water here in Maine to say, you can, not only can you stay here, but you can stay here and you can work at a place that actually is going to motivate you on a much deeper level than just a paycheck.
I would say the love of Mainers for Mainelove has been incredible to watch.
Good.
People are, you know, I get every day I open my inbox to a joy of people who are, you know, we're so proud of what you're doing and, you know, thank you for doing the water economy where the money for the water stays in Maine. So we've tried to be very intentional that, you know, brewers have capacity, they're already connected to the water system. How do we help them diversify revenue? And then how do we enable into a master brand, right? So it's distributed manufacturing.
Sure.
You can take it from multiple places. Ultimately, it's the same base product to make a bigger expression so that brewers can focus on making amazing beer, but they have some revenue diversification that enables them to keep their people employed all year. Most brewers, you know, lay people off in November and hope to find them again in May.
Yes, I never knew
How do we keep people employed? So the job creation, interestingly for me,
and retention
is retention at brewers will be greater than the amount of this business can actually be run with a few big brains, I suspect.
I'd be curious to quantify that, though. I think that's also part of the story at some point to say not only jobs created, but jobs saved.
Well, interestingly, because of some of the way the state works with economic development or FAME, the Financial Authority of Maine, which has been a wonderful supporter of Mainelove, or lovely.
Good.
But their initial instinct is that, you know, to be risk averse. And so really what I feel like my role has been over the last year inside Maine is to show people how to do it.
Yes.
And so I now have a lot of entrepreneurs in Maine that have actually been asking to come to work at my warehouse. Can I just work where you are, Jen?
Yeah.
Right? So
learn through osmosis.
Learn through osmosis.
Yeah.
So I see the same groups at Startup Maine.
Yes.
A lot of those, businesses that struggle from ideation to commercial.
Sure.
And so really trying to show by example that this is how you do it.
Yeah.
It can be done here.
Yeah.
It might take a little extra muscle. It might take a little extra emotional control and pushing, but this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And that you can make an impact. The other thing that my great joy is working with students. So I give a lot of my time to the Halloran Lab at Colby College, which is an entrepreneurship program at Colby.
Yep.
But there's a lot of students who believe that they have to be a Mark Zuckerberg and that they are not successful unless they have launched some, metaverse by the time they're 30.
Right.
I'm 57. I'm coming home to show that you make a difference at any age, at any time. You've moved to Maine with intention to make a difference. And so how do we get more of people like us with your economic development hat on? What would Maine need to do to get more of us?
I think it's doing a lot of it already. Part of it is that action. I think it's the bias for action of maybe the few versus the many, but folks like yourself who, in spite of perhaps the advisors or the folks that said, maybe don't try that out, just go and do it anyways. And I think the same opportunity exists for the blue economy here in the state. Like we've been talking about that economy being what I would consider a right to win for Maine. And I mean that economically speaking. I mean that we can be competitive and win in that sector. But in order to win, you have to take some risks. And you have to, the more you put yourself in a position to win, the more you're kind of putting your neck out there. And so I think if we can lead through example by saying, let's get some activities in place.
Which is such a Maine thing, by the way. You say what you do what you say in Maine. Jeannie's heard me say this 100 times, in that, I can't just arrive back in Maine after being gone for 30 years-ish. And expect to pick up where I left off. I have to sort of earn my way back into the community. It helps that I'm 12th generations Maine.
Oh, yeah. Our daughter's from here. The rest of us are from away. So our daughter, Nellie, she's going to get us into all the,
there you go.
all the top society.
But interestingly, if I don't tell people that I'm 12 generations Maine, I get a different attitude.
Relegated to a different
Yes,
bucket.
I'm relegated to, you've obviously lived away, right?
Yes. I encountered that. Yeah.
And so I think we also have to be of greater hearts and minds, that it takes a bigger village in order to make great products that are not timber, are not lobster, are not our traditional sort of agriculture, aquaculture.
That's exactly right. I think, again, show folks what's possible, show them what's here, show them the momentum, and take a healthy approach to risk, and that it's not just a space to retire at or a space to vacation at or a state to do those things at. It's a state where you can come and do big things and do them quickly. And I think there is an element of speed that matters with all this. You're talking about the very successful first year. It's easy to assemble efforts and goodwill and groups and committees and to talk about the next 5 years and the next decade. And there's usually a lot of good ideas in those reports and things.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it just takes starting and doing it.
Well, actually, I am a just start. I am a just start bias to action.
Yeah, that's right.
And, that's what we did a year ago. Let's just start.
Sure,
we didn't have a concept. We didn't have, I just had this idea that, I was at a brewery and the equipment wasn't running. I'm like, why is nothing running? Why do I not hear manufacturing happen? And they're like, oh, Jen, we already made all our beer this week. I was like, but what else are we doing? Cricket.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And that's every brewery. That's not just one brewery. It's every brewery. So then you recognize that you have all this capacity connected to the same water with millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure that's already been underwritten. How do we help them diversify their revenue streams to enable their entrance to the blue economy in a way that they wouldn't have thought of? They think of themselves as artists, brewers. So this is really to enable them to do revenue diversification.
Right. The mission can remain exactly the same, but just find a way to keep the lights on, or the machines on in this case.
So I had some brewers this winter that didn't lay people off. They actually hired people, and we ran water all winter.
That's great.
So I'm sitting a little heavy on inventory because I didn't know what to expect for the summer, right? As brewers kind of ramp back up.
Yep.
But we helped,
right down the street from me. I don't know if you know the folks at Higgins Beach Market, but they just redid Higgins Beach Market, and I haven't been in the new version yet. I've been going down to Hanks, which is down the street, but I would expect that this would be a perfect
We are
fit.
already there at the
Okay.
Higgins Market.
Good.
We actually took photos there yesterday.
Right. Yeah, the new setup is really nice. But I think of that motion of, I mean, we're so close to that beach and that market that
that's your home store.
What a perfect fit. Yes.
So I've always lived next to the Town Landing in Falmouth.
Nice. Okay.
That was my home store.
Yes,
and
cool.
so as a founder, carrying the first case of water into the Falmouth Town Landing, I literally lost my mind. Like, is this actually happening?
Yes.
Am I actually doing this?
Yeah.
And it's such joy.
That's so fun.
Such joy. And then when you see it at Higgins, you'll see it very quickly.
I mean, I think what you're doing is exactly what Maine needs. It's going to create magnetism, and it's scary, right, to start anything new and to take a leap to do that. Even in some ways, what we're doing at C Street and what we're doing with the Maine Blue Index is a leap. It's a leap to create inertia and momentum where there could be structure and there could be momentum, and there's going to be more coming on that front too. You know, we're going to be launching a few more initiatives to drive that flywheel a little bit faster, but it starts by doing, right?
And really, what we've really enabled is brewers to become co-packs.
Yeah, great.
Help them understand that water is food. So water is regulated by the FDA.
Yep.
Beer is regulated by the ATF, interestingly.
Interesting, yeah.
So there's little to no hygiene required if you make beer.
Yes.
But, you know, water is food. Huh. So there is a little mindset shift at the brewer. You have to, you know, have hand washing stations, a few things that, you know, hygienically we'd probably like to have happen at manufacturing facilities.
Might be the case anyways, yeah.
But interestingly, there's really only one GMP co-pack, good manufactured principle co-pack, in the entire state of Maine.
Wow.
And so what we've been enabling is for brewers to see revenue diversification and to become co-packs.
That's really
cool.
So
it's great they're making water for me, but ultimately they could be making other things for other people.
Yeah.
So think bigger. So we're trying to help that entire economy think beyond beer. You started with beer. It doesn't mean you need to end with beer. You can still make beer.
What do you need to be 10x the current size here in Maine? What do you need?
For me.
What does Mainelove need to be
so at this point, at this point, it is capital.
Is it?
Because it's time to put the right butts in the right seats.
Let this be a call to arms for everyone to, you know.
Yeah, it is a call to arms. Literally, I've been fundraising for 2 weeks, so I am a little tired today.
Well, let's boost that signal.
It is about the access to capital, and honestly, not just equity, because I need equity to fund jobs.
Sure.
But also working capital, so that because this is manufacturing.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. Unlocking working capital is very challenging because I have no assets.
Yes.
The beauty of my model, of the reason why people are investing in me, is because I have no assets, interestingly enough. But then that leaves underwriters in a really confused position.
Yes, I can see
that. So it is a little bit of a unique ask for a working capital line with a forecasted revenue.
Yep. Okay.
That's really where we are.
Yeah.
But it is really fundamentally about cash and talent.
Right.
That is where we are. I've hit that 85%. I'm at 200 doors.
Yep.
I'm at full distribution with a distributor in Maine. We're moving down 95. My goal is head of the Charles for October.
Nice.
With a giant expression with Aramark, actually.
Great.
And stadium yields.
Yeah.
And so we're driving for that October event.
Cool.
To then get to the Garden, to then get to Fenway.
Yeah, awesome.
And then move down to New York,
Perfect.
right? So, and it's
but keeping the Maine on the can all the while. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, this is all IP owned.
Maybe a QR code to Zillow. So
already.
The house.
Already, right here.
Right.
Just we'll backlink Zillow right in there. It'll be great.
Nest a lot of little eggs in there so people can find their way to Maine.
Exactly. So it is. I did it intentionally. We don't work with the Tourism Bureau actually, but I do believe this is the best expression for Maine.
Yes.
For people from away with an aspiration for Maine.
Totally.
I want to drink Maine water in Florida. I want to drink Maine water in Boston because there's an affinity. There's a concept that it's cleaner, artisanal.
Yes.
And they're not wrong.
No, I mean,
this is the best water in the nation.
I am a sucker for good packaging. This is great packaging. I mean, particularly in the craft beer industry, right now you look across a sea of logos and designs, and some of them are just so interesting that they do catch your eye. And you're like, I'm frozen otherwise, so that's what I'm going to go with.
It's choice paralysis, though.
Yes.
If you stand in front of that beer cooler at Whole Foods,
you panic a little bit.
It's choice paralysis.
Yeah.
There isn't a consumer that is not going to feel choice paralysis.
Yes.
My career's been in consumer my entire time.
Yeah.
And actually, it was actually one of the initial learnings was we must, because we are in a beer can, it must look so unique that it cannot be confused to be beer.
That's interesting.
And that's actually part of the palette design here is intentionally. My co-founder who helped build the logo, Kaylin Gutierrez, spent a lot of time with Ralph Lauren and spent a lot of time at Apple.
Cool.
And so really what you see in our expression is a little polo pony opportunity of how do you do pillars of brand in water.
Oh, that's so cool.
And think about the vessel being different for different applications. It's ultimately the same water.
That's great.
But I also make a beautiful sexy can for water for whiskey, for bars, or for weddings.
Oh, cool.
So you can use the same product. We're just making functional packaging.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Are you in Whole Foods yet?
So we have an opportunity to be at the Whole Foods shelf here locally.
Cool. Okay. I don't know anything about getting
interestingly,
to that store,
I could have gotten into Hannaford last year, probably, if I'd pushed my way in to the local shelf.
I'll drive by next time and just.
They've been amazing. No, John, the non-alcoholic buyer there has been an incredible person. Mike Vale at Hannaford is an incredible leader, and I think this is an important point for new brands in Maine, actually.
Yeah.
So people are very attracted to that local shelf. And if you look at what's on their beautiful products, there's a beautiful jam I like. I couldn't tell you the brand. Because the branding is not necessarily of significance, right? And so I actually waited a year for Hannaford to call me to get 50 of their top doors.
Okay, there we go.
Not one door.
Yeah, great.
And so sometimes the tactical patience is the hardest exercise. And that was a tactical patience exercise. But I'm pushing 50 doors this week.
Congratulations.
Right before summer.
Great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And we'll do a lot of interesting things with them.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer. I've been a sales leader most of my career. It's a much different conversation if the client is coming to you than if you are pushing on the client.
That's right.
So we've made, with intention, this is water, CO2, and natural essences, which is an oil, a very expensive oil.
Yeah.
It's 18 cents of flavoring in one can.
Wow. All right.
I got to work on that.
Yeah.
However, it's important to me to have the best ingredients.
Yes.
Right? And so we've worked really hard. No sugar, no stabilizer. That's very important to Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And so we've been mindful to create the product in an intentional way, and I've worked with that innovation practice at Whole Foods for many years.
Yeah, cool.
To be able to go with a big, there's only one Whole Foods in Maine. So really what I want is the Northeast corridor.
That's the only one. Interesting.
Yeah, the one in Portland is the only one.
Yeah.
So to really be of significance to Whole Food, I need the region, and that's Maine to New York. So I need my New York license. I have my Mass license. I have New Hampshire. I'm just about crossing New York. And then New York has a bunch of reciprocity. If I cross New York,
you can triangulate the rest. Okay.
So that's the right time to go to Whole Foods.
All right. Perfect.
And so we'll be going then.
I'm going to get you a Higgins Market in the meantime.
Well, you just keep buying from Higgins Market.
Exactly. That's amazing.
But moving down 95 is really to our when you joined us in the room today, we were talking. Water is really unaffordable, nor is it good for the earth to ship outside of about 500 miles, because a pound of water, 16 ounces is a pound. So it's very heavy to ship. And so what you find in the logistics system, supply chain, is there's capacity almost everywhere. Every truck backhauls back to Boston empty. Trucks are riding half full of alcohol today because they're no longer full because people aren't buying as much alcohol. So in every part of the supply chain, there is capacity. So our other mission here is to leverage capacity. That's why we are asset light on purpose. So I likely will not distribute Mainelove in California, for example. It would cost too much to ship the product to California to not only make economic sense for a consumer, but it's just bad business. And so I expect us to be a very strong regional brand. You do not need world domination to run a beautiful product from Maine to Florida. That's really our TAM, is Maine to Florida.
I heard this once. It was an investor used this turn of phrase, but it was talking about some of the early delivery apps, and in particular DoorDash, and they succeeded in boiling a thimble and not boiling the ocean. I think that's exactly what you're talking about here.
Fair enough. I think that's a great analogy.
Own the region. And at some point, too, I mean, you have a tremendous environmental mission, it sounds like.
Yes.
And to ship to California at a certain weight starts to eat into that environmental mission, the single use and the recycling benefits, and now suddenly you're faced with a new dilemma altogether. So
plenty of people in New England.
Let's use that to draw them into Maine, right?
Draw them into Maine.
Can't get it out in Cali. My little sister will be disappointed. She's out in San Diego, but I'll taunt her from up here and say, why don't you come back?
Well, going back to my question of what you would put in the bottle of Maine, how would you think about telling people from away what Maine is if you were to bottle Maine?
Oh, it's an interesting question. Maine is special, right? I think Maine is authentic more than anything. You know, my connection to Maine it goes back to childhood when I grew up in Massachusetts, and so when we weren't in school, there were two places we usually were. We were either on Cape Cod or we were up in Maine, and the water was a huge part of that. We were in the ocean, we were around the lakes. I remember when we used to stay in Algonquin and Perkins Cove, my mom used to wake me up really early, begrudgingly. I was in elementary school or middle school. And she would say, like, I'm going to go walk the marginal way. You're coming with me. And I was like, I don't want to go with you. Like, come on. But she would, like, sweeten the deal with, like, a muffin at the end of the line, or, like, a pancake or something. And so I'd be out there, and, like, in the fog or in the mist. And by the end of the walk, it's a pretty good walk. By the end of the walk, the sun has burned off the mist, and you can see the whole ocean, and that sticks with you. And I think that for someone who comes to Maine, I like to think that those little moments create that stickiness, and that begins to pave the way towards how they come to Maine. So, how do we bottle Maine in a can? We get more people paying attention to Maine. How do we get more people to pay attention to Maine? We tell Maine's story. How do we tell Maine's story? Well, we do it through Mainelove. We do it through what we're doing with the Maine Blue Index. We do it through C Street. We do it through authenticity. And I think that's what people want now more than ever.
More than ever. I mean, the reason why we're water purely from Maine is because Gen Z does not want to be marketed to, period, full stop. We'd like to have it be very authentic and very straightforward. And if you make it look too mystical, they're not going to be about it. We wanted it to be, a little forehead to the 2x4 to the forehead. Nobody can tell me you don't know what this is.
No, that's right.
Right, if you see it on shelf. So we've actually had this debate. Again? Do you call it Mainelove? How do you order it at a restaurant? It's been a very interesting debate.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And everyone's very worried.
What do you have on tap? Oh, we've got Mainelove on tap.
Actually, that might be a thing, actually.
Yeah.
Watering kegs is a thing.
I was about to say, we can
no, watering kegs is definitely going to be a thing.
Awesome. Okay.
But water is, you just need the vessel.
That's it.
Austin, you just got to figure out how to move water around. It's all about the vessels, really, right?
Yeah, that's so fun.
We should be able, if we can put beer in kegs, we can put water in kegs.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I can see that being a big draw for people, too. I mean, again, you're tapping into all these themes of, like, I don't want alcohol consumption. I don't want a beer tonight. I do want that, though. So
it's so fun as a founder. We give away a lot of water to events, obviously. Yeah. Cans in hands is my big moment. That's what we call it right now. How many cans can I show in hands at this moment?
Yeah.
Which is why we really love Gabe and the Hearts of Pine.
Yes.
And been able to really do some incredible brand work with them.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to see Mainers enjoying it and understanding that it's built by Mainers. And they're buying it, which is incredible. I love that Mainers are buying it. But there's only 1 million people in Maine.
Sure.
So it has to move down the DMAs here. We're really trying to have that sense of community, which has really been that tie to sports, active, relaxing. So this summer we're doing sailing events. We're the Back Cove Music Festival sponsor. We're doing we were the project graduation sponsor for Yarmouth High School. So we've tried to do a variety. Everyone drinks water.
Yeah.
Water does not discriminate.
It's not a bad tagline, right?
Everyone drinks water.
I've been saying that to our kids lately. Hot day, hydrate. Hot day, hydrate. And so
that's a good one.
I know Owen and Nellie will love this. I mean, anytime we have something in the can, they're like, I want whatever that is. I think just the object itself seems beyond what they're normally used to. And so I'm sure there's a whole market with parents who are going to be excited about this in particular.
It's interesting. The feedback has been a lot of the parental feedback is it's amazing it has no sugar.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, no sugar. It tastes great. It's local.
Yeah.
And very, very clear.
Yeah, I know the source. I know the source is clean.
Yeah.
It's important.
So did you know anything about Sebago Lake before you came back to Maine?
I knew it because of the home we purchased. It was we were very fortunate with the house that we landed in Scarborough. We met the folks and the former owners off market. and we had a really good relationship with them in the process of getting the house. But in the course of talking to the owners, I remember one of the things I had asked was like, how's the tap water? And the former owner, he goes, oh, it's from Sebago. He's like, so what's the best? And I was the first time I acted as if I knew. I was like, oh, good. And I'm like Googling, like, what is this? And why is it good? And is it actually good? But lo and behold, it is the best. There is a legacy of quality and purity that comes from that lake, which I was not previously privy to, but I found out.
And it's really about the trees.
Yeah.
Which is why we have a tree on our can.
Wait, how so? I didn't know that.
So the water in Sebago Lake has a waiver for solids. That's what makes it so pure. So it's so clean, it does not need to be filtered for solids.
Okay.
It only needs to be filtered for bacteria and treated for bacteria, if any.
Yeah.
So it's very light. But that's because the forest around Sebago Lake is only about 15% forested.
Huh.
And so that forest is a water treatment plant. So the water starts up at Bethel, Crooked River, rolls all the way down the mountains, takes about 10 years to get to Sebago Lake.
Yes.
But the water is really being filtered by the trees.
Huh.
So the forest is actually more important than the lake.
Team effort here. This is really cool.
Land and water.
Yeah, right. This is the whole
land
state
and
is
water.
in this can, right?
The whole state is in this can. Absolutely, Austin.
That's incredible.
But it's really about the forest.
Yeah.
And so one of our missions is to really support the land trusts that are around Sebago Lake.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the more private land that is donated to land trusts is protected from development, we get to enjoy it for hiking. The water will remain at a high standard.
Okay.
In places where the deforestation hits about 20-25%, your water quality starts to really erode.
That's so interesting. I wonder how many folks know that. I mean, I think, again, you hear the water is from the lake, so you assume the lake has everything to do with the quality of the water. You think nothing about what's on the shore.
It's really about the filtration, and the filtration is really from the trees.
Cool.
So it's really about, protecting the forest around the lake and then smart development, right? Obviously, people need homes. Development will continue. People need jobs, all those things.
Yeah.
But the fact that we're focused on preserving the land around the lake puts us in a really incredible position.
Excellent.
If Portland Water District had to construct a water treatment plant, it'd likely be over $400 billion.
Wow.
Even conceptually, thinking about that number in Maine is outrageous.
Daunting, yes.
So the best thing we could do is not cut down trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we protect the forest?
Yeah.
So that's sort of our understated mission. I wouldn't say we've been loud and proud about that yet.
No, but to find it out and to have that knowledge exist somewhere for people, I think, again, you're creating that stickiness with the brand itself.
And really trying to show the best of Maine here.
Yeah.
I'm really proud to be from Maine. I think most Mainers are proud, humble people.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be doing this with Mainers and proud to be having our state on our can.
Good. I love it. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're doing what you're doing. So happy that you're in the Maine Blue Index.
Thanks for having us. I'm so glad I emailed you.
I know, honestly. I mean, when I say expanded that aperture, it really did. It became just abundantly clear that.
Well, I think I saw a note that it was launching.
Yes.
And I sort of did a little research. I'm like, these are all ocean companies.
Yes.
Why wouldn't I qualify?
Yeah.
And so that's why I wrote you the note. And I honestly didn't expect an answer, to be honest. I thought it would be into some mystical inbox.
No. Into my inbox.
There you go.
Yeah.
And here we are just a couple of weeks later.
Here we are. Amazing.
Well, how can Mainelove be supportive for what you're doing?
I mean, you already are. You're in the index, which matters. I go back to that saying, without the information, there is no strategy, there is no growth. And so the Maine Blue Index, we're a month in now. And even in that month, so much has changed. It's already grown. It's already starting to build up momentum, which is fantastic. And the size of that map will determine the power of the future that we're able to build. And so for anyone out there who's working in the water economy, who's working on the blue economy, please reach out. I'm aw@cstreet.co and get in touch, be part of that Maine Blue Index, be part of what the future economy can hold for the blue economy, and let's see what we can do together.
And how are we going to help Maine and think about water as an economy in Maine, Austin? How do you and I do that?
We just do it.
Do
we
it.
just Nike it, right?
We're just doing it.
We just keep showing up and doing it and
every day.
Example. And talking about it and making it sound fun. I think, again, if things that sound fun, people want to get involved with. And so what better thing than the water? The water brings people so much joy. I mean, it's literally hydrating, but like it also brings people a ton of joy. And so let's spotlight it, let's celebrate it, let's make it something that is not only joyful but also economically viable, which I think is exactly what we're doing here today.
And I would lead with, Sebago Lake is infinitely replenishable as long as it rains.
Yes.
And according to,
as long as we don't mess with the trees.
As long as you don't mess with the trees, and if Maine continues to get more rain than snow, so there's an argument that we are water of abundance in Maine. We sit of abundance.
Yep.
Other areas of the nation sit in great scarcity. With Maine, from Maine with love, as Rob Todd would say, right? How do we show the world that we have a great resource of abundance and water, right? And made with love.
Thirsty, come to Maine. Yeah, the new tagline. Great.
Well, thank you, Austin. This has been amazing.
I appreciate it.
I'm grateful to be in the Blue Economy Index.
Likewise.
And would love to work with you anyway in the future.
You're in it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.